Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Tim Geithner continues his tour of the Middle East, drumming up support for the U.S. economy. Has it been a success? Well, let's try to find out. Bloomberg's Peter Cook is the only broadcast journalist traveling with the Treasury Secretary, and he joins us now live from Abu Dhabi with a guest. Peter?
Well, thanks very much, Scarlett. The sales pitch from the Treasury Secretary continuing at this hour here in Abu Dhabi. He's meeting with UAE officials, meeting with the heads of sovereign wealth funds here in Abu Dhabi, again making the case the United States is on the path to recovery. We're going to talk about some of the issues the Secretary is confronting here in the Gulf right now with Mario Maratheftis. He's head of Gulf Economic Research at Standard Chartered Bank in Dubai. Thank you, first of all, for the time, for braving the heat with us. We appreciate it. Let me ask you, first of all, Mario, about the state of the economy here in the UAE and the Gulf more broadly. Is the worst over?
I think the worst is probably over. I think the economy is bottoming out. It's definitely not growing at the rates we saw in 2008. Liquidity is much tighter, and at the same time we're undergoing through a housing market correction which is taking away a lot of the hit from the economy. So there is a significant slowdown, but on relative terms compared to what is happening in the rest of the world, I think this economy will probably start recovering into 2010. The Gulf overall, I think, is in a good condition, and the star performance probably of Gulf economies will be Qatar, both this year and next.
If the Gulf is in a good condition, as you say, what sort of challenges does that pose for Tim Geithner as he comes here, tries to sell these nations on the health of the U.S. economy over the long term and also the health of the fiscal situation in the United States? A lot of these countries hold a lot of U.S. debt.
Well, even though the Gulf is in a healthy state and it will cope with the global crisis, one of the reasons why the Gulf is able to cope is because they've been accumulating surpluses for a number of years, which gives the governments here the fiscal space, the opportunity to spend much more aggressively in their own domestic economies and try and pick up the slack in the economy, which means that there is less available money to go abroad, to go into the United States and to go into foreign investments. I think the domestic needs will be prioritized, and at this time the oil prices are nowhere near the highs we saw last year, so there is less revenues coming in, lower production of oil because of the cuts from OPEC, and much bigger needs of the domestic economies compared to last year.
Is there skepticism as well about the economic situation in the United States, the strength of the dollar going forward, for example?
I don't think there will be overly concerned with the strength of the dollar. Given the dollar pegs, if anything, a weaker dollar would be good for the Gulf economies right now. We needed a stronger dollar last year when inflation was the problem, but now growth is the challenge, and a weaker dollar would be a much bigger problem. I think the main skepticism and the main challenge is that they have needs of their own right now, and I think the needs of the United States or of other parts of the world would be secondary in their order of priority.
There's been so much focus on Dubai, the growth of the development there, and now the retrenchment that's taken place. Walk us through how dire the situation is in Dubai.
There is indeed a significant slowdown in Dubai. There are job losses as well. But I like to look at the UAE economy as a whole, and what is very interesting to see is that a lot of the job losses that Dubai is experiencing are being absorbed by Abu Dhabi. And even in Dubai, I think that this correction was actually necessary. We saw about 70% of investment that was taking place last year taking place in real estate. This correction would allow Dubai to refocus its attention on the real sectors of the economy, on the ports, on the financial center, and on tourism. So there is a downturn, it's cyclical, and I expect Dubai to start recovering in 2010 with the UAE economy doing fairly well next year.
All right, Marios, listen, thank you very much for the time. Appreciate you joining us here in Abu Dhabi. That's the latest. The Treasury Secretary's meetings continue. He's meeting with the Central Bank Governor of the UAE right now. We're going to talk with the Central Bank Governor a little later on ourselves. We'll send it back to you in New York, Scarlett.
Thanks so much, Peter Cook in Abu Dhabi.